Welcome to the deep dive. If you're serious about your golf game, you already know this painful truth. Rounds are often won or lost, well, right around the hole. They're short putts.
Exactly. Putting seems so simple, right? Just roll the ball in. But it's anything but.
It's actually incredibly technical. It demands real discipline, biomechanically and physically. That's what our sources are pointing towards today.
And that's where so many of us stumble. We rely on feel. But feel can desert you under pressure.
So true.
Process, on the other hand, that's repeatable. Our mission today is to give you a solid, physics-backed process for putting. We're going straight to the core stuff.
Cutting through the noise.
Yeah. Critical setup details, movement patterns you might not even be aware of, and importantly, numbers. Quantifiable metrics for a stroke that holds up.
Okay, I like the sound of that. A physics-backed process. Let's unpack it. Where do we begin? The foundation, I guess.
The address position, but not just stance or grip. Those are important, but we're focusing on something maybe even more fundamental. Putter placement relative to the ball. The optimal way, according to the research, is to place the putter slightly behind the golf ball.
Behind it. How far behind?
Just the tiny gap. Think maybe half a finger width. It feels counterintuitive, I know.
It really does. My instinct is always to snug it right up against the ball. So why the space? What's the advantage?
Think of it as an insurance policy. For your tempo, for your commitment.
An insurance policy?
Yeah.
How so?
Well, if the putter's already touching the ball, there's this subconscious temptation, right? To maybe slow down just before impact or try to steer it with your hands at the last second.
Yeah, I can picture that, the little hit at impulse.
Exactly. That tiny gap forces you out of that mindset. It trains you, mentally and physically, that the only option is to swing through the ball, not at it.
So commitment becomes baked into the setup. You have to keep the putter moving.
You do. Visualize it continuing on a straight, neutral path through that impact zone. And the sources say this needs to carry on for a good 10 to 15 centimeters past where the ball was.
Okay, so mandatory commitment straight through that 10, 15 centimeter zone.
Precisely. And that neutral path, that continuation, it kills that tiny deceleration that creeps in.
The one that causes the face angle to wander.
That's the one. Decelerate, and the face might open, might close. Boom, putt's offline before it even starts rolling properly. Consistent speed and direction through the hit. That's the key.
Understood. First 6 inches, mandatory follow-through. Okay, let's talk body movement then. A lot of amateurs, myself included sometimes, feel like putting is all hands and wrists.
It's a common trap. But for real control, real reliability, the upper body needs to lead the motion. The big muscles provide stability.
Right, but how do you get the upper body involved without swaying all over the place?
Hmm?
That lateral movement seems like it would kill consistency.
It absolutely does. You need a mental image, a constraint. And a really powerful one is the vertical laser wall.
Okay, vertical laser wall. Intriguing. Explain that.
Imagine a perfectly flat, vertical plane of laser light running right down the center line of your body, perpendicular to your target line.
Got it. Like a sheet of glass right through my chest.
Sort of, yeah. And its job is simple. Don't let your upper body crash through it sideways. No excessive lateral shifting, especially as you come through the ball.
So it's about keeping that central axis stable.
Mm-hmm.
For a right-hander, I know I shouldn't grift left towards the target. But how do I actually move the putter then, if I'm not shifting?
It's subtle. It's not about no movement. It's about the type of movement. Instead of sliding left, which, yes, would break the laser wall, think about your left shoulder moving upward.
Upward, toward the sky.
Exactly. As you follow through, the left shoulder rises. And interestingly, there's often a slight counterbalance, a tiny shift of your center rightward, settling back slightly. This keeps your spine angle consistent.
Ah, so it's more of a rotation in a tilted plane, not a sideways slide. The shoulders rock up and down almost.
That's a great way to put it, like a pendulum swinging slightly up the arc on the follow-through side, not purely back and forth horizontally.
Okay, that makes visual sense. How can listeners train that feeling, get that vertical rotation instead of the sway?
There's a fantastic drill for this, often called the rock the baby drill.
Rock the baby.
Yeah. You take an alignment stick, or even just another putter, hold it across your upper chest, pinning it with your arms against your shoulders.
Okay.
Then stand inside a door frame in your putting posture. Now, just make your putting stroke motion, rocking your shoulders.
And the point is, Don't hit the door frame with the ends of the stick.
Precisely. If that stick bumps the frame on either side, you're swaying laterally. You've crashed the laser wall.
That's clever. It forces you to rotate purely, shoulders moving up and down in that vertical plane you mentioned.
It does. Master that feeling, that vertical shoulder rock without sway, and your putter path becomes way more consistent, almost instantly.
Great drill. Okay, let's shift gears a bit. From the body mechanics to the ball itself. Specifically what happens right at impact. Ball position. We usually hear slightly forward of center.
Right, that's the standard advice. But the why is rooted in physics. It's about the putter's angle of attack at impact.
Angle of attack, like with an iron.
Similar concept, yes. By having the ball slightly forward, you ensure the putter head makes contact while it's on the slight upswing of its arc, the ascending phase.
Okay, and why is striking it on the upswing important?
Because it imparts a gentle lift, a slight upward launch. This gets the ball rolling smoothly on top of the grass rather than driving it down into the turf.
Which would cause it to bounce or skid initially.
Exactly. Driving it down causes digging, hopping, skidding, basically an inconsistent start. We want a pure roll as quickly as possible.
But there's a danger zone here too, isn't there? If you put it too far forward or maybe get your hands too far back.
Absolutely. Too much upward strike, and you can actually pop the ball slightly airborne, which sounds okay maybe, but it's terrible for consistency.
Right, because a ball that's hopping or skidding excessively isn't gripping the green. It's losing energy unpredictably. It's affected more by tiny bumps.
You've nailed it. You lose speed control, you lose directional stability. Which brings us to a really fascinating, quantifiable metric for putting quality. This is where it gets technical, but super useful. It's called the 10% rule.
The 10% rule. Okay, lay it on us.
The total amount of time or distance the ball spends in that initial phase, skidding or slightly airborne, must not exceed 10% of the putt's total length.
Wow, okay. That's specific. So let me work this through on a, say, 10-foot putt.
Right. The ball should be in a true roll, fully gripping the green by the time it's traveled 1 foot, max.
Only 1 foot of skid or flight on a 10-footer, that's demanding.
It is. But it's what the best putters achieve. Think about a 30-foot putt. That means no more than 3 feet of initial skid hop before it settles.
That really puts a premium on getting the ball rolling purely, almost instantly, if it's skittering along for 5 or 6 feet on that 30-footer.
You've already lost a significant amount of control. Your speed judgment is compromised because a skidding ball slows down differently than a rolling ball. Direction is less stable. The 10% rule is a benchmark for elite consistency.
And hitting that 10% mark consistently must tie back into equipment, right? Specifically, putter loft.
Huge connection. Loft is often ignored in putting, but it's fundamental to launch.
We think about it for drivers, not so much for the flat stick.
We should. There's the static loft, what's built into the putter face itself.
Like 3 or 4 degrees, typically.
Yeah, somewhere in that range usually. But then there's the dynamic loft. That's the actual loft you deliver at the moment of impact, based on your stroke mechanics, your hand position, your attack angle.
And it's the dynamic loft that dictates that initial launch.
It's the interaction between the static and dynamic loft, yes. That determines the launch angle, and we have a target window for that.
Okay, what's the magic number?
The ideal launch angle, for that perfect smooth roll that meets the 10% rule, is generally between 1 degree and 2.5 degrees.
1 to 2.5 degrees. That's a tight window.
Very tight. Now think about how many golfers have their hands pressed forward at address and impact.
Loads of them. It feels stable, promotes that downward strike feel we often learn with irons.
Right. But doing that significantly de-lofts the putter. If you take a putter with, say, 4 degrees of static loft, and your forward press removes 3 degrees dynamically...
You're only delivering 1 degree of launch. You're right at the bottom edge of that ideal window.
Exactly. And if you de-loft it even more, you might even get negative launch, driving the ball downwards.
So someone with a really strong forward press might actually need a putter with more static loft, maybe 5 or 6 degrees.
Precisely. They need that extra built-in loft to counteract their stroke mechanics and get the dynamic launch back into that 1 to 2.5 degree sweet spot.
And if you get the loft wrong, what are the results?
Bad things happen. Too little dynamic launch, like we said, you drive the ball into the turf. It starts offline, hops immediately. Too much dynamic launch, maybe from someone scooping it, or using a putter with way too much static loft for their stroke, and you get excessive hopping and skidding.
Which blows the 10% rule out of the water.
Instantly. You get inconsistent roll, poor distance control. This is why putter fitting is becoming so crucial and so technical.
Using things like high-speed cameras and launch monitors.
Exactly. Systems like Puttalize, Sam Putt Lab, Quintic, they don't just look at your path. They measure dynamic loft, launch angle, face angle at impact, and crucially, that skid distance.
So they can objectively see if you're hitting that 2.5-degree launch and meeting the 10% rule.
Yes. And then the fitter can match the putter's static loft, maybe even head weight or shaft properties, directly to your specific stroke to optimize those launch conditions. Takes the guesswork right out.
It moves fitting from subjective feel to objective data. Makes sense.
Okay, we've covered setup, body mechanics, launch physics. Let's hit the final piece. Distance control. Pace. Right. And pace, fundamentally, is about rhythm, not hitting it harder.
Okay, rhythm. What's the ideal putting rhythm? Is there a formula?
There is. The sources point strongly to an ideal 2.1 time ratio between the backswing and the forward swing through impact.
2-to-1. So the backswing takes twice as long as the forward swing.
Exactly. Think of an internal count. A slow 1, 2 for the backstroke, followed by a crisper 1 for the forward stroke right through the ball.
1, 2, 1.
That's the rhythm. Practicing that internal count, that 2.1 timing, does two critical things.
What are they?
First, it stabilizes your tempo, makes it consistent across different putt lengths. A short putt has a short 1-2, 1. A long putt has a longer 1-2, 1, but the ratio remains the same.
Ah, so the tempo, the cadence feels the same regardless of distance.
Exactly. And second, it's a huge defense against nerves. When people get anxious, what do they often do?
Rush the stroke, especially the transition or the forward stroke.
They accelerate abruptly. They violate that 2.1 ratio. Sticking to that measured 1-2, one count prevents that jerky acceleration that kills distance control under pressure.
So the rhythm stays constant.
Oh.
And the variable that controls the distance is simply the length of the backswing, how far back you take it during that 1-2 count.
That's the core idea. Consistent rhythm, variable backswing length, like a pendulum. And what's really cool is the historical link. This isn't just some modern golf theory. The concept of using a pendulum for consistent timing goes way back. Think 1700s France.
Okay.
When scientists were trying to define the standard unit of length, the meter, one early definition was based on the length of a pendulum that had a period of exactly 2 seconds, meaning 1 second to swing from one side to the other.
No way. So the basis for the meter was tied to the physics of a pendulum's rhythm.
It was initially. They were harnessing the consistent physics of a pendulum swing to create a standard of measurement. We're doing the same thing with using the physics of a consistent pendulum rhythm to standardize our tempo and control distance.
Applying 18th century French science to making 4-footers. I love it.
You're replacing random feel with a repeatable physics-based timing mechanism.
That's the goal. If you tie it all together, truly great putting isn't magic. It's physics meeting practiced feel.
Yeah.
But that feel has to be built on solid pillars, the pillars we've talked about.
Right.
That half-finger gap set up for commitment.
The vertical laser wall for stable rotation.
Matching the loft for that optimal 2.5-degree launch, meeting the 10% rule.
And embedding that 2.1 pendulum rhythm.
Nail those 4 things, and you've moved from hoping the ball goes in to having a robust, repeatable process you can trust.
So for everyone listening, you now have a framework. Specific checkpoints for your setup, your movement, your launch, your rhythm. Things you can actually measure and practice, like checking that 10% roll on the green.
It gives you something concrete to work on, which leads to a final thought. We know that big environmental things, like the tiny difference in gravity between, say, Amsterdam at sea level and Mexico City high up, those are basically negligible for your putt speed. All right, gravity's pull is effectively constant for golf.
What small physical environmental factor, something not related to the green slip itself, might subtly influence your perception of that perfect 2.1 rhythm? Something that could mess with your internal clock just a tiny bit.
Not slope. Something else physical affecting my perception of time or rhythm.
Something to think about next time you're standing over a crucial putt. What tiny external influence might be throwing off your internal metronome? Mull that over.